Welcome to the PJ Finance Show.
Today we will discuss a framework for country investment, Part 3. Hey Phoebe, thanks for the delicious meal last week.
Any chance you might be craving for more cheesecakes and boba milk teas?
What do you mean? I'd be scared if you offered it like that.
Well, I need to know more about nominal GDP and gross domestic income, etc.
I knew it.
So, is it a deal or not?
Fine. But only if you add sushi this time.
Wah, the price of your guidance is going up. That's inflation right there.
Exactly what I want to talk about. If you look at this chart produced by Fred aka Federal Reserve Economic Data, you can see that the difference between nominal GDP and real GDP is inflation.
From what I heard, the central bank's job is to reduce or stabilize the inflation.
Yes, and the inflation here refers to CPI inflation or PCE inflation, not asset inflation.
I remember that we had discussed asset inflation a few months ago.
This was in Bubble No Bubble in Season 1. If you are a subscriber to this channel, you will be able to find it easily.
Consider a Chinese company with a 7% borrowing cost. We can see that during 2004 to 2008, this company's profit was growing at between 16 and 22%.
Sure, if nominal GDP is rising at 16 to 22%, national income would be growing at similar rates. An average company's earnings or an average worker's wages will be increasing at those rates as well. This is why it is so important to understand how GDP is linked to the market. However, during 2014 to Q2 2015, the nominal GDP fell to 7%. It must be hard to pay the 7% borrowing cost during that time.
Yes, as a result, we can't say if inflation is good or bad. It is about understanding who are the winners and losers. When we have high inflation, it is bad for the savers because they're losing purchasing power.
On the other hand, it is good for borrowers because given the same level of real GDP, higher inflation equals higher nominal GDP. The higher the inflation, the higher the nominal GDP, higher national income, yada yada yada.
You mentioned GDP and national income. I have a nice chart for you. For the red line showing real GDP, it is measured using the expenditure approach, which is consumption plus investment plus government spending plus export minus import.
It means that our spending is someone's income.
Yes. The blue line shows real gross domestic income. In the graph, you can see the real GDP has a synchronized relationship with real gross domestic income. When net factor income from abroad is brought in, it'll become national income. So you can understand why people usually say the national income is very similar to the GDP. In national income, there are profits, interest, rent, wages and salaries. If we take away the undistributed corporate profits, corporate taxes and social security contributions, and add transfer payments, we get personal income. Then personal income minus personal taxes will give us consumption and savings. And this ends up as disposable income. To put it simply, disposable income is the money left over from salary after all taxes are paid.
More consumption is good for the economy today, but often this results in less savings, which cannot support a stronger economy in the future.
Right. On the other hand, if the Fed raises interest rates, we get more savings, i.e. less consumption, which can lead to a recession, but the higher savings today can lead to a stronger economy later on.
Of course, if we wish to see increases in both consumption and saving, we need to see rising disposable income.
This can happen with a tax cut or when the GDP is rising.
Back to how national income can be divided into profits, interest, rent, and wages. Who gets a larger slice of the pie?
When we look at this chart, we can see wages or hourly compensation had been growing in line with productivity throughout the 50s, 60s and some parts of the 70s. From the mid-70s onwards, hourly compensation for workers did not increase much as usual.
Rising productivity benefits the companies, but wages are not getting their fair share. This means that a larger part of the productivity gains ended up in corporate profitability.
The higher earnings then provide a good reason to invest in the stock market.
Workers getting a smaller slice of the pie.
True. Just like the cheesecake I'll be finishing within minutes.
Here we are. Back to cheesecake again.
Of course. Since I've done my part to make it clear for you.
And no need to remind me. Sushi as well. Thank you for watching.
This presentation on a framework for country investment, Part 3 is brought to you by the PJ Finance Show.